Hello and welcome to the Rural Well. We are Bridgette and Loren, and we are thrilled to have you with us. Today we're going to talk about traditions on the farm for upcoming holidays. As Loren has said, traditions are really, really good for your mind, your heart, and your soul. So let's figure out why. So you might be joining us while you're searching for those new ornaments you bought last year. You know, they're around here somewhere. You might be baking cookies. Please save me some. Or maybe you just found that missing Easter egg from Easter. It's happened at my house too. But however you join us, we know that this ag industry has its challenges, but we are right alongside you. And we cannot wait to connect and inspire one generation and legacy to the next. So let's get started. Loren, traditions. You tell us that they're such a good thing.
Oh, they are. They are a powerful thing. They're kind of like foundational, to be honest. And when you think about Christmas, ultimately, I have all sorts of traditions that come to mind. And so I can't help but start off by telling a few stories. Although the one I want to really tell, just brace yourself. It's a bit of a funny one. I'm not sure. Do you go get a Christmas tree every year, or do you put up an artificial one?
We banned real Christmas trees after the year that it dried out so fast and so quickly, and you slammed the door and you heard all the little needles fall on the packages and say, tink, 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 tink. So no real tree and no Easter grass at my house because they just go awry.
They go awry. I remember we had 2 years of the tink, 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 tink. So the living room that we have, it's quite tall. And so we need a pretty massive tree, to be honest. And so one year we decided to go and get our live Christmas tree, because we always get a live Christmas tree. And I always kind of bend the rules, like ideally they're 4 weeks in advance. And I'm like, let's just stretch it to 8 for fun, or 6, like let's start Christmas really early. And so we went and we got our Christmas tree, but we knew we had to get a tall one. We had all of our kids there. Our sons are all, and our son-in-law, very able-bodied, and we thought they'll be able to help us. So we find this tree, and in the field, it does not look nearly so massive, right? Like when you look at the tree outside, you're like, it'll do. And so we cut down this massive tree and we take it up to the farm where the people look at us and they go, we can't shake that out for you. Because normally when you cut down a real Christmas tree, they put it on like a shaker. Mm-hmm. It's a metal plate that is hooked up to electricity and it shakes back and forth to kind of get all the dried old needles out. And so we understood. We're like, yeah, no, we know it's too big. That's okay. It's lying in the back of our truck. It's too big to even tie the string around. But we're excited. We're excited. It's raining out. It's a little bit miserable that way, but we're excited. So we trot on home. It's about an hour drive in the pickup truck. And we get there and my husband lovingly puts the tree over the, when I say puts, like the thing was massive. It was huge. It was massive. And so he throws it over the side and me standing back goes, oh dear, be careful. It might break some of the branches. And he's like, it'll be fine. So we open up both doors. So there's a large entryway. We got the boys. They're dragging it in. We're kind of carrying it. And then we have to try and erect this thing. We have to try and get it all the way up. And so we've got the base ready. The screws are ready. The tree trunk is it's bigger than the base. And the base is extra, extra large. And so my husband has to take the tree out and kind of cut off a few of the sides of the tree to kind of get it into the water trunk. And so there we are, we're pushing it up. And so it takes all 4 of us. There was at least 4 of us, might have been 5 of us, pushing, kind of walking this tree up to get it to stand up for Christmas. And then we have to figure out how to keep it up because it's a little bit of an angle. It didn't have an angle out in the field. It was perfectly, perfect in the field, but in the house, it had a bit of an angle. So my husband's up on a ladder trying to tie it back to the window casing. My son Mike is on one side, our son Josiah is on the floor. We're all working away at getting that thing up. And we're reaching into the middle of the tree to hold it up. My son-in-law is allergic to it, so he's getting all rash. And I peer into the inside of the tree, and there's 2 little beady eyes looking
No
back.
way.
There was a mouse. There was a mouse in this tree. And I went, so there's a mouse in this tree. And so my husband was like, that's it. We're done. Artificial this year. That's what's happening. And so we drag this tree back out and we've got everybody's looking. We're all watching for this mouse to hop out of this tree because this mouse rode all the way home.
Right.
Nutty. And so that is our claim to fame. The year we stopped getting a real Christmas tree was the year the mouse decided to join us. And all I can think about is Cinderella and how she would lovingly chat with those little mice, because that is not what I did. That is not what I did.
You can't live here. You can live somewhere, but it's not here.
Yeah. So Christmas traditions, I think part of our message today is it's okay if they change a little bit when mice are involved.
I think that's probably a good idea. And what could be some traditions that could maybe help you manage your stress? Because the holiday season comes and people are just overwrought. Our shopping lists are long, our groceries, we're spending too much money, we're hosting too many parties and going too many places. And you've told me this before. Not everything is just, smile and it'll be fine. So what can we literally do to help ourselves manage all of this stress at this time of the year?
It's an important question, because if you talk to a lot of people, they don't like the holiday season because of all the stress, right? It just comes with far too much. And so we have to actively choose what's our real goal here? Because if our goal is to connect with one another, whether or not we have 4 different types of vegetables at the supper table is not going to help us connect with one another, right? If your goal is to make meaningful relationship connections over Christmas, you're going to have to change some of the expectations you've got on yourself.
I will tell you that that's not easy. I graduated from college, got married, had a family, and thought, okay, now I have to do all of these things. Like my whole Christmas should look like a Hallmark Channel movie. And then you know what I realized? It doesn't. Is there a way to tell our younger selves or even our kids, maybe it's just leading by example, that we don't have to make it a Hallmark movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is definitely part of it. I think what I encourage people to do is to step back from everything, take a deep breath, and say, what are the things that you love most about Christmas that you're like, I do not want to give these things up. So for some of us, it's Christmas Eve. We love to go to mass, or we love to go to church, or okay, then that's
do that one.
High on the priority list. Do that one. If it's I love to get together and have a meal with family, okay, do that. But does it have to be the same meal? And interesting enough, on Christmas Eve, I think you have a similar story. On Christmas Eve, what do you do for Christmas Eve meal? What do you do?
Actually, our Christmas Eve meal, it can vary quite a bit because I'm from a farm family that raises beef. But Christmas Day, my in-laws, who live in a slightly larger community, we don't cook. We order Chinese food. We're literally like the Christmas Story movie, and it's so much fun.
So our family was the same. When I was young, Christmas Eve, we always ordered Chinese in. It was like my mom's kind of like, it's a bit of a break because you're providing a really big meal tomorrow. And so Christmas Eve, we would have Chinese food. And we still do that. Our family still does Chinese food on Christmas Eve night.
I think something else that I realized, my house doesn't have to be decorated like it's ready for a real estate showing. What's the most important thing that matters to me and to my family when we get to Christmas time? We put up a nativity scene and the tree itself, because we have a holiday tradition. And I will, full disclosure, I worked at Hallmark in college. And so there are certain things I believe in: good birthday cards, nice wrapping paper, and Hallmark ornaments. And for me, I tend to always buy an ornament for our tree every year. But I've also made it a practice to give ornaments as gifts to all the nieces and nephews. So someday when they move on their own, they have their own collection. And our tree truly tells a story. If folks follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, you're going to see pictures of my Christmas tree every year. And it is littered with ornaments. Nothing else in my house has to go up as long as that tree goes up. That's it.
And I love what you said there, because it's really, again, you're prioritizing. You're saying, this is what is really important to me. One of the other things you mentioned is the pressure when it comes to the financial end of things. And unfortunately, we've become a culture that has kind of relied on credit. Like we've relied on our Visas and MasterCard to carry us through. The danger in that, one of the dangers, particularly for those of us who January and February are actually really tough months from an emotional perspective. We tend to see more people struggling with depression and anxiety and, just feelings of loneliness and isolation, particularly on the farm. in our northern areas. So we live in an area where it's really cold, very dreary. We used to live in Red Lake, Ontario, which is 7 hours north of Thunder Bay. So it was, above the, I don't know, 49th parallel. No, 50th. I don't know.
Way north.
Way north. Yeah, way north. And so it was always sunny and minus 50. And it was wonderful. It was cold, but it was sunny. The area where we live now, we can have go 2 weeks and we don't see the sun. It's very dreary, very dreary. And so we really need to set ourselves up for Christmas to not be this really financially taxing event, because that carries on our January and February, which we know we already have to be aware of and take some precautions or take some, be really creative with. And so I really encourage people to budget as best you can. We need to do away with the idea of the gifts have to be bigger, better than everybody else's. We have to set that aside. Our culture has suffered because of this idea that everybody has to get $500 gifts or what have you. And in fact, it's so interesting. I see a lady who, their gift to their family is we're going to go on a family trip, and they don't exchange gifts at Christmas time. And the amount of kind of spewed back to her is off the charts. And I'm thinking,
that's terrible. Now, do you remember, you and I have talked before about things like Pioneers, Laura Ingalls Wilder, etc. Those gifts were gifts that were needed. Mittens, maybe a doll, something that was, something that was needful. I think we're talking about prioritizing. We're talking about budgeting. And I think we should think about needful things. I've never asked my kids, what do you want for Christmas? What do you need? And they started to catch on to the fact that needing didn't mean video games or scooters and things like that. It meant, I need a new winter coat. Looks like I'm in college and I need new glasses. Those become the things that we should really think about. My nieces and nephews, like I said, they get a Christmas ornament and they probably get one other thing. So for some of them, it's like the silk wild rags neck scarves because they're out working cattle and things like that. Ask yourself, what do you need? And if you don't need anything, or if someone around you doesn't need anything, that's okay.
When we talk about gift giving, I think back to when I was a child, and at Christmas time, I would call my friend and ask her, what did you get for Christmas? And her gifts were always consistently, I don't know that I was jealous of them, but I was always in awe of them. I think one year her dad made her an art easel, and she's an artist. And I was just wow, that heartfelt gift. And those type of gifts took personal sacrifice. I remember one year, my husband and I had moved to the farm. We were absolutely dirt poor. We did not have 2 shiny coins to rub together. And he went around and he collected from the farm that we had taken over all of this scrap metal for a long, and he collected it diligently for a couple of months before Christmas time. And then he went and traded it in or sold it. And on Christmas morning, I unwrapped a KitchenAid mixer.
Oh my gosh.
Was it was extreme extravagance for us at the time. But what was more meaningful to me was the amount of time he took to plan that out and know that, I would have never even thought of asking for that kind of gift. It was just way outside our price range. And I want to be careful that people don't think I'm saying go and spend outside your price range. He was really creative and spent a lot of time to make that happen. Right. And I think we really can come back to that place where, like you said, Laura Ingalls Wilder, and, where we can give a gift that is meaningful rather than merchandise, rather than material, right? We can give a gift that's meaningful rather than material. And so for the gardener in your life, that might look like a gift certificate for seeds. Or easy things.
Easy things. And sometimes it's not it's the particular item that matters. I'm extremely fortunate in my large family that generally one of my 2 sister-in-laws hosts the whole mess of us. And when we're all there, our numbers are easily, 20, 25. That's a lot of people to have. And so I learned that language also matters. I will call my sister-in-law and I won't say, what do you need or what can I do? Because she's probably overwhelmed with a house full of kids and all of the things that she needs to get done on the farm prior to that Christmas celebration. My question to her instead is, would it be okay if I bring and I just list those items? And then she says, oh, that's great. That would be fine. That's helpful. Sometimes it's as simple as I'll bring all the paper plates and forks so that we don't have to do dishes before we go to church. For a long time, the town where I live, the cafe made these fantastic dinner rolls, and my niece called them the amazing buns. So I would call and say, can I just bring the amazing buns? Then nobody has to worry about baking and doing it. Those little things can matter, and it matters how you say it. Take the responsibility so they don't have to feel pressured to make one more decision.
Yeah. No, that's a great insight. I love that, because I think often we do the other where we say, oh, well, what can I bring? And we really put the responsibility back on the hostess, and the hostess is like, I can't think that far ahead right now. The hostess is like, I'll let you know the day of, The other thing we can do is give a gift of our time. And I think this piece gets missed a little bit. Right. The other day, we own an on-farm bakery, and for a variety of reasons, I was utterly exhausted. And my neighbor came over to borrow our cornhole game. And I honestly, when she called to ask if she could borrow it, I was like, whatever, if you want it, just dig through my basement and find it. Honestly, I did not even have the mental capacity to be kind and like, sure, let me get that for you. Didn't have it. And so she came over and she kind of saw me. She's like, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. Cornhole game is in the basement. It's in a black container. Have fun. And so she came upstairs and she said, can I give you an hour? And if you'd looked at my kitchen, you would have known it's going to take 8 hours to clean this puppy up. Like it was just cyclone. And at first I was all polite. I was like, no, that's okay. Don't want to trouble you. And then I went, am I nuts? I was like, yes, absolutely. The gift of your time right now is a huge gift to me. And so, your Christmas gift to your grandparents might be sitting at their feet and saying, hey, tell me a story.
Yeah. Grandma doesn't need another doily. Instead, how about you promise to take her out for lunch or bring lunch over on a cold, dreary January, February day? Mark that on the calendar so that gives both of you something to look forward to. I have a nephew who is a brilliant little mechanical mind trapped in a tiny fourth grader or fifth grader body. And so I said, you know what your gift is going to be? I'm going to take you on a tour of a farm equipment manufacturing facility we're close to. It's going to take me 3 hours. We're probably going to have lunch, and he gets to gawk and awe at all sorts of things.
Amazing.
Those are the gifts we should do.
And I think when we do that, we can lower some of those expectations and we can take joy in that intentionality. And see, that's why after Christmas, a lot of time people feel just empty because we've just gone through this pattern of routine and we spent this money, we bought these gifts and we did these things. And instead take a deep breath and say, what were the experiences that really kind of gave me some enjoyment? And what did I do for other people that brought them enjoyment? And so, yes, budgeting is really important. Number two, it's okay to start early. It is okay in August for you to say, you know what, that necklace would really kind of just be a great gift for my niece or whatever it is. Then get it early. Don't wait.
Prioritize. Just say, you know what, this is my one very favorite piece of Christmas that I must have, and let all the others fall aside.
The last thing that is so important is to find some time for yourself. Now, I recognize this is really challenging, especially for those young moms and dads that are listening. This is really, really challenging. It's okay to hire a babysitter on Boxing Day or Christmas Eve. It is okay to do that. It is okay to allow yourself to say, I'm going to go upstairs and take a bath. And so I need an hour, and then spouse, I'll give you an hour. But whatever you can do, it is absolutely critical you prioritize a little bit of self-care throughout that season and practice some mindfulness in that process.
Because you know who's watching? Your children. And the examples that you can set for them don't cause them to go into a tailspin as they get older.
Absolutely. One of my most favorite things to do, you talked about the Christmas tree and how important it is for you to decorate it. I'm very much the same. And I don't recommend this for everybody. There's nothing that brings me quite so much enjoyment around Christmas is 4 o'clock in the morning, sitting with a cup of, for me, water. For you, it might be coffee or tea. And just enjoying that Christmas tree, enjoying its presence, being mindful of the season, and watching the sunrise. For some of you, it might be watching the sunset. Whatever it is, taking the time to really be mindful.
Those are good days.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other traditions that you practice at Christmas time?
We hide a Christmas pickle in our tree. And this past year was the first time we introduced it to our new son-in-law and our daughter-in-law. And we have a little glass pickle ornament that we hide in the tree. And the first person to find it gets one little extra gift. And I honestly think that this year, the one little extra gift was actually a little box of fudge, just something small.
We also do that tree. It's an Old English tradition. We also hold that. In fact, as a wedding gift, I often give people a little pickle.
Oh, I like that. That's a wonderful gift.
Yeah, wonderful. I really like that. One of the other things we do is setting up the nativity. That is usually a family activity. And it's so interesting because when we have foster children, it's one of their most favorite things to do is to set up that nativity. It just boggles my mind how much joy they take in it. And the other thing we do is on Christmas Eve, we always read a Christmas story together.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So in like November, we would take our kids to the bookstore and they would pick out the Christmas story and then we would wrap it up and put it under the tree and we would unwrap it at Christmas Eve after they got their pajamas.
Yes.
Yeah. I love Christmas traditions. Just talking about it, I'm already excited about what the next few weeks have to hold.
You said pajamas. That was a tradition as a little kid. We would come home after church and my grandparents all lived in the same town. So we'd go to one grandparent's, we'd go to the other, and then we'd get home. And of course, we're all jazzed up on all sorts of Christmas cookies and whatever. And the rule was you had to put your pajamas on before we could open gifts on Christmas Eve. We didn't open on Christmas Day because Christmas morning we had to milk cows and get to town for the, more festivities, or we were hosting. So Christmas Eve, we'd open our gifts. And I think my folks caught on to that early. It was a good idea because sometimes as kids, you'd open your gifts and then just completely conk out right in the pile of wrapping paper.
It's all done.
You're so done. And we kept that tradition alive as we got spouses and children. And sometimes our spouses looked at us and they're like, y'all are putting your pajamas on? We're like, oh, yeah, we are.
It's 5 o'clock. It's time to get pajamas on.
Get your pajamas on. We're opening the gifts. So, and traditions can change. It's okay to let go of them and change them.
Yeah. It's okay to let go and change them. And it's okay to create new ones.
Yes.
And if we're raised in a family where the traditions, there's some pain associated with that. It's okay to recreate. It is absolutely okay to recreate and to start a different tradition, a different trend for your family and for what's to come. Okay, so now is the opportunity for us to change gears. I love this segment of the podcast because it gives us a chance to kind of listen to a quote, and then it's kind of reflective of what we've already talked about. And today's quote is no different. So this quote is taken from actually an unknown person who wrote it. So if it's you, let us know. But anyway, it says the traditions we create now will be memories we cherish in the future. Bridgette, what do you think?
So I look at that just as what you and I were talking about. Those memories that we have of being little kids, of the things that we got to do, of the two tiny beady eyes looking back at you in the tree. We will cherish those stories and they will live on in ourselves as well as in the memory of those we share them with. And those traditions I think they bring that spark of dopamine that we all need at a time where it's a little hectic.
It's so true. In fact, when I think of my childhood, it is riddled with traditions. Going and getting the Christmas tree was one of them. And I remember my mom would make these bacon and cheese kind of buns on Christmas Eve, and we would listen to the Christmas story from the Bible on Christmas Eve together. And I loved that. I just cherished all of those. But my brothers would also say that part of my tradition was sneaking down through the night and seeing what Santa had set out for us. And, there was an occasion or two where somebody figured out how to cut the tape really perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And you could unwrap the present from one end so you could see what it was, and then wrap it back up and put another piece of tape exactly perfectly on top so nobody could recommend. We did enjoy all those traditions. And so I would absolutely agree with this. The memories and those carry you into adulthood. They are foundational for your character development, and who you are and what you value. So I think traditions are absolutely important. And the research is actually really strong when it comes to the importance of traditions in a child's development.
I really hope folks share their traditions and their ideas. I mean, even pictures as they listen to the podcast and they give us feedback on platforms. Let us know what some of those are. And when you mentioned that about peeking in the gifts, I found a cure for that when folks weren't sure what gift it was. I would swap boxes, or I would put a box inside a bigger one so they didn't know what it was when they were trying to peek.
Whoa, you went hardcore.
Yeah. I was like, if you're going to go through this effort, so am I.
Okay. And the other thing we were going to challenge our listeners to do is send us a picture of your Christmas tree, because Bridget and I are going to post ours.
I will. I can't wait to see yours without the tiny mouse in it. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay. So for the record, it'll be an artificial tree now.
That's totally fair. All right. So also, because we already are laughing and giggling just a little bit, we have a question for ourselves, our one last question. Well, we've talked all about holidays and traditions, but Loren, if you could become fully enlightened instantly on any one subject, which subject would you choose?
Oh, good night. Oh, wow. What a question, Bridget. If I could become fully enlightened on one subject, I have no idea, as all sorts of ideas have run through my head in these milliseconds.
Sure.
I think probably an aspect of baking. Like if I could learn how to make homemade Italian food, like homemade pasta I'm okay with the cream sauces, but like I watched this show, and you've probably heard of it, called The Lost Kitchen.
Oh, yes.
And how she can come up with those recipes to me. I'm just like, girl, where did you get that? If I could become fully enlightened on all episodes of The Lost Kitchen, everything she makes, I think I'd be chippy.
Honestly, there's an area in which I wish I could be better. And I've always said if I hadn't gone to college and gotten a 4-year degree, I would have gone to a 2-year school and become an electrician. And that's the area that I feel like I should be better. I should know how to do these things. I have a degree in egg education, and I'm not that good at electricity, but if I get to pick one that I'm enlightened, I just caught that joke myself. I'm enlightened thinking about being an electrician.
Okay, sorry, I want to cut out my laugh. Can you say that again?
So I just caught my own joke. I didn't even think of it. If I'm going to be enlightened and I'm talking about being an electrician, goodness. So, but I would like to know way more about power generation and how we do that, and how it gets from a dam that's creating hydroelectric power to my house, or why that is different than solar power, and why I don't know those things. And I feel like that's an area that I kind of want to do.
That's so cool. See, there's so many areas. I think about that, or building. One of the other areas when I think about it, though, is if I knew exactly the right things to say to help people heal. Oh. Like as a therapist, there's times where I'm like, why can't this person experience the hope and the joy that I want them to experience so badly? And so I think that would be another aspect as well.
That'd be a great aspect. So there's so many wonderful traditions. The holidays are here. We want everyone to enjoy them as much as possible. But just remember those few little steps we outlined for you on how to make them even better now and in the future. So thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, folks. See you next time. Hey, folks. We are so glad that you joined us on The Rural Well, and we hope that you found a nugget of wisdom in our chat today. But listening to our podcast is a drop in the bucket if you are struggling. So we encourage you to reach out in whatever way you are able to ensure that you get the help that you need to thrive. If at any time you are in crisis and cannot keep yourself safe or your loved one safe, please call 911 or visit your nearest hospital. We are delighted that you chose to spend your time with us, and we want to hear from you. So drop us a note and be sure to tune in next time to The Rural Well, and remember, you were made to thrive.